The supplies we'll be using are half a sheet of Arteza Expert watercolor paper, a size 6 and a size 4 Princeton Heritage brush, a white gel pen, a bottle of Copic Opaque White, a pencil, and the following 3 colors: Purple Haze, Antique Pink, and Grape Gumball. Also not pictured here, which I forgot to include, was Solaris. To begin, we are going to draw a circle in the center of our paper. To sketch out the amethyst, I'm going to use a real-life reference, which is this amethyst cluster that I have. If you don't have one, you can just Google or Pinterest some clusters, some crystal clusters. If you Google crystal coloring pages or crystal outlines, they have ready-made drawings that you can print and transfer onto your watercolor paper. So if you don't have anything to reference in real life, you can just Google it or follow along with me. I sped this one up a little because it gets a little bit boring watching me draw and erase and draw and erase. After a while, I put the crystal down, took a look at the entire drawing, and tried to even it out. I've added a few extra spikes of the amethyst to even out the entire piece. Once we're satisfied with our drawing, we are going to begin to paint it. And to do this, we're going to break this down into sections. So we're going to start with one section with the inside completely, and then drop in between 2 and 3 colors. So I'm not painting in the colors, I'm actually just tapping it in and letting the colors mix themselves. There are going to be some gaps where no color is going to hit, and that's the exact look that we're going for, because those gaps are going to show up a lot lighter on your paper after it dries, and that's going to kind of give the illusion of shine on your crystal. So don't be too fussy with this part. Just wet the sections that you're working on and drop paint into them. It's not very important at this point either to let the sections dry before painting the ones next to it. You'll notice as the video goes along that there are some places where one piece wasn't fully dried, and then I got some like weird patterns. At first I tried to fix it, but then I just kind of let it be, and I found that I really liked the effect of it. Because if you're looking at a crystal, especially like a cluster of crystals, they're not perfect. They have a lot of imperfections. It just gives a lot of character to the crystal and to your piece as well. So if there are any mistakes, if you're too heavy in some areas or too light in other areas, just leave them. Let them do what they need to do. So drop the paint in and move on to the next section. One thing you should be aware of is that you don't want the entire crystal to be too dark. So what I've attempted to achieve is to have the darker pieces along the bottom edge of the circle and some darker pieces where the crystals overlap. So if there's a crystal in front of one, the one behind it where they meet will be just a little bit darker than normal. And that's just going to give the effect of some shadow and some light. Other than that, there really isn't any rhyme or reason to this. Just drop in the color. Do not fuss with it is the key. Do not fuss with the color once you drop it in. Drop it in and walk away. Move on to another section. We are going to let our piece fully dry, and once it is, we are going to line the circle in gold shimmer. In this case, I'm using Solaris. Next, we will take our white gel pen and outline all of the lines inside of the crystals. So you're going to outline all of your original pencil lines. You may not be able to see them all, but you will know where they are based on the separation from when you painted each section of the crystal. Now we're going to add some light with our white paint. As I always say, if you don't have Copic opaque white, you can use gouache or white watercolor. Even acrylic will work. The key to this step is to not go in too heavy with the white. We just want a nice soft lightness to parts of the crystal. Over the tops of some of them, you'll see that I'm going to add a little triangle, just a little tiny triangle of a highlight. And that's going to be the brightest white that I will put on crystals at the moment. In other areas, I'm going to put a little watered down wash of white along the sides of the crystal. And this just gives it a very light reflection of light. I'm going to try to blend in some edges so that it could just be like a seamless reflection. And then finally, towards the end, we will add a few streaks of a harsher, brighter white. Not too many because you don't want it to be distracting on the crystal. You just want little tiny specks of it. Once we are done adding all the highlights, we're going to do what I absolutely love doing with basically all of my paintings, and that is adding splatter. So with that same white, take some with a very small brush because we don't want to have very big splotches of white on your paper. So with a small brush, tap some white splatter over your crystals. Try to keep it concentrated to within the crystal so that it doesn't land on any of your gold shimmer. And with that light splatter of white paint, our piece is done. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you during the next tutorial.